welcome to the deep dive. You send us sources, we pull out the key info. Simple as that.
Yep, making you the expert.
Today we're diving into the 2025 Suzuki DR-Z400S. It's a dual sport adventure bike meant for, well, both trails and streets.
And we've got a pretty detailed review article here. It covers specs, features, competitors.
Yeah.
The works gives us a really good look.
Exactly. We're talking engine details, handling, comfort, the good, the bad, even some FAQs. So our mission really is to figure out what makes this DR-Z400S stand out. Is it actually the ultimate dual sport adventure bike like they claim? For you, the listener.
Right. Does it fit that bill?
Yeah. I mean, I'm already thinking, hitting some trails and riding straight to town for coffee. That kind of freedom. That's appealing. Okay, let's get into it.
So fundamentally, the DR-Z400S, it's built for versatility. Rugged off-road, but still street legal.
Right.
The target rider. Yeah. Probably someone who wants adventure without compromise, doesn't want to pick dirt or asphalt, but wants both.
Gotcha. So trails on Saturday, commute on Monday, that kind of rider.
That's exactly it. And the specs, they really back this up. Let's start with the engine.
Okay.
It's a 398cc liquid-cooled single cylinder. Now, what's interesting here is the balance. It's got roughly 30 horsepower, maybe 25 pound-feet of torque.
So not a rocket ship.
No, not about raw speed. It's more about smooth, predictable power, which for you means it's manageable off-road, especially if you're learning, but still has enough grunt for the highway.
Makes sense. Don't want something twitchy on loose stuff.
Plus, single cylinders tend to be pretty good on fuel. Good for longer trips.
Right. Helps with range. And simple mechanics, too, I guess. With a 5-speed manual transmission, pretty basic stuff.
Exactly. Tried and true. Reliable. And for learning, maybe less confusing than a 6-speed sometimes. Focus on the riding.
Okay.
And the simplicity carries over to the fuel system. It uses a Mikuni carburetor.
A carb. In 2025. Huh. Okay, why?
Well, yeah, most bikes now are fuel injected. But think about being way out there on a remote trail. A carburetor is, well, often easier to troubleshoot. Maybe even fix yourself with basic tools if something acts up. Unlike complex electronics, it's that kind of old-school toughness.
Ah, I see. Reliability in the middle of nowhere.
But the downside is they're generally less precise than fuel injection. So maybe not quite as crisp on cold starts or quite as fuel efficient as the absolute latest tech.
Okay, so a trade-off. Refinement versus rugged reliability. Got it. It is liquid-cooled, though, which must be important.
Oh, absolutely crucial. Liquid cooling uses a radiator, keeps the engine temperature stable, unlike older air-cooled bikes.
Right.
Vital for preventing overheating, especially if you're riding slow on trails, hot weather, or stuck in traffic. Performance stays consistent.
Good point. Okay, suspension, telescopic fork, monoshock rear. The review says long travel. What does that really mean for the ride?
Long travel suspension is key for off-road. It means the wheels can move up and down more, a lot more.
Right.
So instead of feeling every single bump and rock jarring through the bike, the suspension just soaks it up.
Ah, smoother ride.
Smoother, yes, but also much better control on rough ground. Think roots, rocks. The wheels stay in contact better, giving you traction and steering when you need it.
Makes sense. Keeps you stable. And brakes, disc, front and rear. That sounds pretty standard, reliable stopping.
Yeah, disc brakes are the way to go. Good, consistent stopping power, wet or dry, on pavement or dirt, gives you confidence.
Okay, now wait. 317 pounds wet. First, what's wet weight?
Wet weight means the bike with all fluids, gas, oil, coolant, basically ready to ride.
Gotcha. And 317 pounds. Is that light for this kind of bike?
Generally, yeah. For a nearly 400cc dual sport, 317 pounds is considered pretty lightweight, and that lightness really helps with handling. Makes it feel agile, easy to turn, easy to manage on trails.
Agile sounds good, especially off-road. But the seat height is 35.8 inches. That seems tall.
It is on the taller side, yeah. Definitely something shorter riders need to check out in person, but that height is part of what gives it that great ground clearance, 11.6 inches.
Ah, okay. The trade-off for clearance.
Exactly. And for taller riders, it can mean more comfortable legroom.
Right. That 11.6 inches of ground clearance sounds like it could handle some decent obstacles. Like what, specifically?
Imagine a rocky trail, maybe some embedded rock sticking up. That clearance means you're much less likely to bash the engine case or frame on them.
Okay, yeah. Less scraping.
Lets you ride over rougher stuff with more confidence.
Clear picture. Now, the fuel tank, 2.6 gallons. Seems a little small for an adventure bike, doesn't it?
That's a fair point. It's always a balance, right? Keeping weight down versus maximizing range.
Sure.
2.6 gallons isn't huge for, say, multi-day remote trips without planning. But for day trips, commuting, shorter loops, combined with the decent fuel economy, it's usually enough.
Might need an aftermarket tank for serious touring then.
Some riders do that, yeah. Or just plan your fuel stops carefully.
And the price. Estimated $6,999. That definitely feels like a strong point. Very competitive.
Absolutely. That price makes it really accessible. You get a capable bike, Suzuki reliability.
Yeah.
It's a strong value proposition in the dual sport market.
Okay, so we've got the basics down. Let's dive deeper into those key features. That 398cc engine the review mentions smooth power delivery. Why is that so important?
Smooth power is just easier to manage. For beginners, it's less intimidating, less likely to spin the wheel unexpectedly or stall on tricky terrain. Builds confidence.
Makes sense.
And even for experienced riders, predictable power means more precise control in technical sections. You know exactly what you're going to get when you twist the throttle.
And that carb reliability we talked about, it's not just about fixing it. It's about it not breaking down in the first place, right? Seems like peace of mind.
Exactly that. The review even mentioned an owner riding through heavy rain, dust, no issues. Fewer complex electronics means fewer things to potentially fail when you're far from help. It's robust.
And fuel efficiency ties back to adventure, lets you go further on that smaller tank.
Precisely. Maximizes your range, more riding, less worrying about gas stations.
Okay, off-road capability again. That 11.6 inches of clearance. You mentioned rocks. What about something like tree roots across a trail?
Yeah, perfect example. With that clearance, you're much less likely to get the bottom of the bike hung up on roots. Just roll right over them, maintain your momentum, avoids damaging stuff underneath, too.
And long travel suspension isn't just comfort, it's control.
Right.
Keep the tires on the ground.
Absolutely fundamental. The more the suspension moves, the better the wheels track the terrain. Better grip, better steering, especially on loose stuff like gravel or mud. The bike absorbs the bumps instead of bouncing off them.
And the knobby tires are obviously key for that grip off-road. Maybe a bit noisy on pavement.
Yeah, they can be a bit louder on the street, and they might wear a bit quicker than road tires, but off-road, that aggressive tread pattern is essential. Digs into dirt, mud, gravel, gives you the traction you need. Non-negotiable for serious trail riding.
Okay, switching to street use. Street legal design. Lights, mirrors, check. But the review highlights the compact frame, that 317 pounds weight. How does that help in the city?
Lighter, more compact bike just means easier maneuvering in traffic, quicker lane changes, filtering through tight spots. Less wrestling the bike around and stop and go. Makes city riding less of a hassle, more nimble.
And comfortable ergonomics. Wide bars, plush saddle. Sounds good for longer commutes or just cruising around.
Definitely. Wide bars give you good leverage, more control at low speeds, easier U-turns, and a comfy seat just reduces fatigue. Makes it more practical for everyday riding, not just weekend blasts.
The review keeps saying lightweight and agile handling, quick and responsive, but also stable. How do they manage that? Seems like opposites.
It's clever engineering, really. The low weight makes it easy to flick into turns, react quickly. But the frame geometry, how the weight is distributed, it's designed to feel planted, not twitchy or nervous, even at decent speeds. It's a good balance.
And that proven durability and reliability. Suzuki's reputation helps, and the simpler design probably contributes to fewer things to go wrong. It's called timeless. Feels like it's been around.
Yeah, the DR-Z platform has a really long history. People trust it. It's known for being tough, reliable, relatively easy to maintain. That long-term popularity says a lot about how well it works. Often means lower ownership costs for you, too.
Okay, sounds really solid overall. But let's look at the competition. The review mentions the Honda CR450L and the KTM 500 EXEF. Performance-wise, the KTM seems like the beast.
Yeah, the KTM is definitely geared more towards high-performance off-road. More horsepower, more torque, very focused machine.
Right.
The Suzuki, again, it's aiming for that balance. Enough power, but smoother, maybe more usable for mixed riding. The Honda sits sort of in between, less power than the Suzuki, but it is lighter.
Weight and handling.
Yeah.
The Suzuki is the heaviest of those three. Is that a big deal off-road?
Well, on paper it's heavier, but many riders like its solid feel, the suspension works well, and that reliable engine is a plus. The lighter Honda and KTM might feel a bit quicker and really tight technical stuff, maybe, but the Suzuki aims for that blend of capability and dependability.
In design, versatility, it really feels like the DR-Z is the true all-rounder here. KTM is way off-road biased. Honda may be leaning towards agility.
That's a good way to see it. The DR-Z might not be the best at any one extreme, but it's consistently good across the board. Off-road, street, handles both well. That taller seat helps clearance. The carb adds to its simple, reliable nature.
And then there's price. The Suzuki's way cheaper than the Honda, and especially the KTM.
Yeah.
That has to be a massive factor for people.
Oh, huge. It's a major selling point. You get a really capable, reliable dual sport for significantly less money. That value makes it super appealing, opens it up to more riders. A big reason it's so popular.
Let's touch on design and comfort. Rugged look, minimalist. It definitely looks like it means business off-road, right? Knobbies, high stance.
Absolutely. Form follows function. It looks purposeful, practical. No unnecessary frills. It signals what it's built for.
And the ergonomics seem thought out. Tall seat for clearance, wide bars for control, decent saddle for longer rides. Sounds like they considered actually spending time on it.
Exactly. It tries to balance the needs of standing up off-road with sitting down comfortably on the pavement. Wide bars help everywhere. The seat aims to reduce fatigue, makes it usable for more than just short trips.
Okay, let's be balanced. The drawbacks. That carbureted engine feels maybe a bit old tech compared to fuel injection. What might you notice day to day besides reliability?
You might notice throttle response isn't quite as instant or crisp, maybe, especially if the temperature or altitude changes a lot. Cold starts might need the choke, and like we said, maybe slightly less fuel efficient than the very best FI system.
And lower power compared to rivals like the KTM. If you really want that kick, that adrenaline rush, maybe the Suzuki feels a bit tame.
Yeah, if maximum power for aggressive riding is your top priority, the DR-Z might feel a bit less exciting than those higher-strung bikes. But honestly, for most dual sport situations, its power is plenty, and definitely easier to handle for many riders.
It's also heavier than some competitors. You said it's light overall, but those few extra pounds, could you feel them in really tricky, slow-speed off-road stuff?
Maybe. A really experienced rider pushing hard in super technical terrain might notice it requires a bit more effort than, say, the super light KTM. But for most people, most of the time, the stable handling and robust feel probably outweigh that small weight difference.
The smaller fuel tank, we know the deal there. Plan your trips or get a bigger tank if needed.
Yep, just requires a bit more foresight for longer rides away from civilization.
And limited modern electronics. No ride modes, no traction control. Just you and the bike. Good for some, maybe a drawback for others.
It really depends on what you want, you know? Some people love that pure, direct connection. Simple, nothing getting in the way. Others appreciate the safety net or customization that electronics offer. The DR-Z is definitely for the traditionalists in that sense.
Okay. And the FAQs in the review just nail down those key points again. Price, power, the carb logic, how it stacks up against the Honda, the adjustable rear suspension, which is nice, that great ground clearance.
Yeah, preload adjustment on the rear shock is handy. Lets you tweak it for your weight or if you're carrying luggage.
Right. And in concerns, it's decent for beginners, manageable power, fairly light, and repeats the warning about fuel range for long tours.
Exactly. It's a good quick summary of the main takeaways. Answers those common questions clearly.
So wrapping it all up, the 2025 Suzuki DR-Z400S. It sounds like a really strong contender. Maybe not the absolute cutting edge everywhere, but it seems to nail that balance.
Right.
Real off-road chops, practical on the street, super reliable, and crucially, affordable.
That sums it up perfectly, I think. For a lot of riders, especially those who value simplicity, proven reliability, and, well, value for money, the DR-Z4X really does seem to deliver on that ultimate dual sport promise. It's just a versatile, capable workhorse.
But, if you absolutely need the latest tech or you're chasing maximum horsepower for serious off-road racing, you'd have to weigh those things against the DR-Z's strengths, the carb, the power level, the fuel tank.
Exactly. It's all about trade-offs. What fits your priorities, your riding style, where you plan to go. That's the key question.
So thinking about that balance, what kind of adventure would you want to tackle first on a bike like this? Hitting those trails you've been eyeing up? Or maybe exploring the city and back roads, taking advantage of its go-anywhere nature? Definitely something to ponder. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.